My name is Kaz Riley. This is Trancing in the Sheets, and today I get to speak to one of the most powerful and influential women in the world of hypnosis. And the really cool and interesting thing is I don't actually think she hypnotizes anybody. Trancing in the Sheets. It's time for things to change. Hi, so today we have on Trancing in the Sheets the very wonderful and amazing Stephanie Skiba. And Stephanie is probably not only the cogs, but the oil that makes so many hypnotherapy businesses and hypnotherapy conferences turn. So welcome, Stephanie. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you, Kaz.
So tell us about, I mean, you are probably one of the most influential and powerful women in the world of hypnosis. And I'm right in thinking that you don't hypnotize anybody, am I?
Or do I hypnotize everyone?
Well.
No, I do not do it in practice, no.
But you know, your knowledge of hypnosis conventions and hypnosis trainings and all of that kind of stuff is second to none. But you are a really key person in many different hypnosis businesses and conventions. So tell us, how did you get into doing all of that?
Well, I have been friends with Richard Nongard since we were very young. And so, you know, through the years, we've kept in touch and all of that. And then in around 2006, he wanted me to work for him. He was living in Tulsa, I was in Arizona, and he wanted me to work for him, but I could not at that time. So then in about 2008, I believe, is when I started working for him, and he had this whole hypnosis course apart from his CEs for licensed mental health professionals. So I was like, oh, this is interesting, you know. And so obviously I took his course so I would know what the questions would be, and then I started working for him, and then it just kind of took off from there.
So then how did you then end up kind of being part of HypnoThoughts? I mean, you are an integral part of HypnoThoughts. You're not a volunteer. Let's just clear that up. I know sometimes people mistake you as a volunteer, and we're grateful to the volunteers, but yes, you are a much bigger part of HypnoThoughts than people often realize, aren't you?
Yes. So then I met Scott Sandland at the Dallas Hypnosis Convention, which was my first convention way back. And so I knew hypnothoughts.com, and I had been referring everybody I talked to on the phone with Richard Nongard, every new hypnotist, I would say, oh, go to this community, hypnothoughts.com, you know, go, and it's a wonderful place. You can ask questions, there's articles, all of that. So I'd already been kind of a campaigner for the conference. So after that, after the first year of HypnoThoughts, I missed that, but they needed someone to kind of help. And Richard Nongard said, oh, you need Stephanie. So he at that time, I was like, really? You don't mind if I, you know, do this? And he's like, no, as long as my stuff gets done, you know, you can do whatever you want. So then I honestly thought the first year was just going to be a one and done. I didn't think that it was going to become, you know, what it is now to me. So that's the short story.
That's amazing. And HypnoThoughts itself, obviously, you know, has gone from, how many were at the first convention?
I think at the first, I could be wrong because I wasn't there, but I think there was about 200, 250 at the first one. And by the second one, when I came, there were 450.
Wow. And
then it just doubled to 2019, which was our largest year. And then, you know, little.
Yeah, and I suspect 2022 is going to be probably the biggest year ever, isn't it?
We're completely expecting it to be. So, yeah. And we're on track for.
So I know people are signing up every day, aren't they? You know, the I know some people will leave it right to the last minute, but you know, if they're wanting rooms and stuff, they probably need to get on it and take some action, because it will be a big one this year, without a shadow of a doubt, because the whole world is opening up. There'll be other people from Australia and,
I
you know, from
know.
Europe, and, you know, it'll be
It
19 and more, I think, won't it?
Yes, and it's been so fun just with at other events that I've been doing in the past, even just mostly the past like 3 months, to have people from, someone flew over to Las Vegas from Amsterdam, from the UK. I'm in Costa Rica right now, and we have two people from Africa, and a person from the UK, and another person from Alaska. So
Wow.
it's just kind of fun to be swimming in that pool, with other people from different areas.
So you've obviously worked with many people who are organizing conferences. You yourself organize conferences like Hypno Thoughts. And also by default, you are often the person that people see when they arrive at these conventions. And also you're dealing with the speakers and the whole shebang, really. So what for you would say would make a good attendee for a convention? If you could say if you had like the perfect kind of model attendee for a convention, how are they? How do they behave? How do they treat the volunteers and all that kind of stuff? What for you is that kind of perfect scenario?
I think so many people are really lovely. I mean, it's really true. I think with everyone that I've worked with and for, it's more of that that's the people they attract, right? So that sets the tone for everything. I think keeping respect for everyone, and just whether they're a big name presenter, a volunteer, an organizer, someone cleaning, your room. It's how you treat people. For me, a lot of it, and how you treat people says a lot about you and where you are in your journey. Because I've seen a lot of things. So for me, someone who I understand that attendees coming to Hypnothoughts is a big playground, right? And there's a lot of different activities. There's a lot of different kinds of personalities, and you can certainly walk in and be like, wait, what? So I think for me, I love the people who volunteer their very first year, because it really gives them a view. They get to go into rooms maybe they wouldn't be assigned to. They get to see people. They get to talk directly to speakers, which almost everyone can if you want to at Hypnothoughts. But really, they kind of have that little one-on-one time with them, helping them set up and things like that. And so for me, it's just the perfect volunteer comes with a heart and a mind that's open to everything that they're supposed to learn. And I did have someone say about a week ago that, well, I feel like that Hypnothoughts can be a little cliquey. And I said, I understand that perception. That's not our intention. I think you being a speaker for all these years, we say, sit with people that you don't know, meet somebody new every day, make people feel, special and appreciated. And so I hope that largely that comes through. I think sometimes people come in and you have to, you can be seen or you cannot be seen at Hypnothoughts, I think. So if you want to quietly come in, I'll know who you are because we've likely emailed, or I've typed your name 10 times, or whatever. But if you want to come in and not be seen, you won't be seen. But if you want to gently push in or full on push in, I feel like people are very accepting and are open to letting people into their groups or into their area.
I know, absolutely. I know the first time I came to Hypno Thoughts, which was Hypno Thoughts 3, And I did not, other than a few Facebook kind of names and a couple of conversations with one of my best friends now, actually, Stephanie Conkle. I did not know a soul. And, and it is very much, it can be a little bit overwhelming, but then you kind of realize that actually there's so many people there that it's their first time. It's like the first time for anything, isn't it? And they just kind of, people are so welcoming and so lovely. And there's so much, like you said, there's so much to do hypnotically. There's just about every kind of class that you could imagine, but there's also lots of other fun stuff to do. And you're always going to get people that haven't seen each other for a long time, and it seems cliquey, but actually they will, they're very welcoming. I've never seen a clique where it's kind of an exclusive thing. It's just actually, it's not even cliques, it's just groups of people that, are happy to see each other and are very welcome to include other people within those groups. I have always found while I've been at Hypnothoughts. So, no, it's
true, because it is like a family reunion for a lot of people. But those people haven't always been like that. No. A lot of the, like you said, you met at Hypnothoughts. So anytime you see Stephanie, of course, you're going to be so excited. But if you were an outside observer, you might think, oh, look at those wonderful women whose names are all over and who, they're not going to talk to me. But all you'd have to do is say, hi, how are you? How did you meet? How did you become friends? It's a wonderful opportunity for you to ask questions of people.
And it is about the community at Hypnothoughts. So I know, we have that phrase, don't you can have your 5 best friends on one of your hand. And I can say 4 of mine I met at Hypnothoughts over the years. It's that level of friendship because you meet your tribe. These are the people, we forget, don't we, often, hypnotists and people that run these conventions as well, but we'll come to that in a minute, is, they often work alone. I work alone in this office and, it's a place to really connect and have some fun. And yeah, we talk shop, but also we talk about so many other things and do so many other things and go to a show and go bowling. And this year we've got the 80s party and, all of those kinds of amazing things. So, but people often probably don't realize, it's not a case where, it would be lovely to think you could just book a convention center for an event like Hypnothoughts and then just take a few names, make a few badges and it's all done. And there's way more than that. So talk to us a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes, all the hard work that's literally been going on for HTL 22, probably since about 3 days after HTL 2021 happened. So give us some insight, because I think people need a better appreciation of just how much hard work, passion and commitment go into putting on an event like Hypnothoughts.
It's a big thing. It's always funny to me that people leave Hypnothoughts and sometimes they don't take a post-conference, which you should, but they leave after Sunday, they go home Monday, they have clients maybe Tuesday, then they email me on Thursday and say, well, now that you've recovered, I have these questions. And I'm like, I'm still here. I'm still here for the next 5 days, So that always, it cracks me up. It just cracks me up because they don't know, So it's funny, but we actually already have the theme for next year. We have our ideas so it's actually a year ahead, which is, it's nice at this point because there are some things that we can certainly not coast on, but they don't have to be on fire, So that's really fun. But it is a year-long project. There are times now that we've been doing it so long, we know times that are a little bit calmer. And so that allows us to get certain things done. So that's why sometimes when people will email me and say, especially first-time presenters, I need to do this, we need to do this, and why, how do I do this? And I need to buy a booth, and and I'm like, nope, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We don't do that now because I'll forget. it's not, that's not on my schedule. So we do kind of have a schedule of what we do each year. Obviously the Orleans is really easy to work with. And they know us, and they kind of know our people too, which is good. And they allow us to try new things. Every year we like come to them with ideas, and some they're like, yeah, no, that, you cannot do that. But every year we try to do something fun and something new for people.
No, I mean, it has, just as a person that's been there since year 3. Apart from, well, I was even there kind of even in the pandemic years, even if it was via FaceTime or
You were.
via video. But you can see the evolution of Hypnothoughts, which actually I think isn't the evolution of just Hypnothoughts, but the evolution of hypnosis conferencing worldwide. It really is the gold standard. It's the biggest, but it is also the best. There is something there for everyone, and it is so inclusive and welcoming. And that's a lot to do with you. That's a lot to do with who you are and how how you've organized all of this, and how you do welcome every single person that arrives at Hypnothoughts. The first thing they're met with as soon as they walk into the convention center is a huge smile from you, which is just amazing, isn't it?
That's
And
so sweet. Mm-hmm.
but it
I
is,
think I think for me, some of the people who one of the people that have encouraged me from the beginning is Carm. And he has always been so, that very first year, I was nervous. I mean, I'd only, I'd done Dallas, and I was coming in kind of a year late, so I heard things about year 1, and there were other people running it. And so I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do, but I think one of the things that was so wonderful is my reputation with Richard Nongard was already set. So I had that to kind of build on. And so Carm has been so encouraging to me with doing the work, and that it doesn't go unnoticed, so that's he's one of him and Melissa Tears are kind of my champions for just saying, no, do it. Just do that. If I have a question about, well, what, how can I do this better?
No, they are both amazing people, but they both only champion amazing people as well, that I know. So it's you truly are. Well, I always call you the hypno goddess, because you are the leader of many of these things. Now, in terms of the work that you do, what are the kinds of things that you do behind the scenes? Like, say now we're only weeks away, really, a couple of months away from Hypnothoughts 2022. So once you finished at Costa Rica, what are the things that you've got left to do to get all this kind of moving along? So because it always, I mean, I'm sure there's things behind the scenes we don't see, but it always seems to run so smoothly while we're there.
Well, honestly, we have so much fun planning it. I mean, sometimes, some of the Scott and I meet weekly. We talk throughout the week, obviously, but we are very faithful about meeting weekly. And some of our conversations just are so funny. Last year, my husband and I were living with my parents for about 6 months. It was only supposed to be 2, but that's another story. And we lived with them. And so I had taken over my father's office, and they could hear me, in my conversations. And my mom is just like, you have so much fun, because even hard things we can talk about without, arguing. Or I honestly don't think I've ever had an argument with Scott. We've disagreed about things, certainly, but never had an argument. So I think it's just being able to work well with other people, right? I mean, in life. And so I think our next thing is, certainly it's like 78 days. So the other day I just emailed the catering banquets person and the head of sales, and we're going to have a meeting. And I had my list of questions for each of them in an email, and do I need to fly out to Las Vegas and have a meeting in person, or is Zoom okay, and all of that. So that's kind of what we're gearing up.
It's busy,
Gearing up.
busy, busy, isn't it? So it is.
I
It's a super
know.
busy time for you. I know.
And I
Um,
think, one thing that's great with our Facebook group, I don't get as many calls as I used to from people who are first timers. I used to get a lot, but now I think that they know to go to our Facebook page, and you've seen it. I'm new. That what about this? What are this? And before I can even answer it, or Scott can even answer it, somebody's jumped in and said, "Oh, we're so glad you're coming." And they're not a presenter. They're not sometimes they are, but everybody is just working together for something, and I really appreciate that.
It is, and I think Hypno Thoughts as a whole, the attendees, the presenters, obviously you and Scott and the team behind it. That's the kind of really wonderful thing, is that everybody actually does work together. It's all, we've all got the same guys. I mean, it truly is. It's the probably some of the best hypnosis education on earth, but it's by far the biggest hypnosis party on earth, isn't it? It's a real celebration of everything that is hypnotic, and in every kind of form. It is just the most amazing place to be. I know I always feel like I'm really alive. I mean, I'm alive, obviously, but that kind of, it's like it's that real passion in your belly that you really feel. But what's so cool about it is you feel it from everybody else too. It's that real connecting experience that we all have at Hypno Thoughts. What do if there was somebody that's thinking about it now, they've never been to Hypno Thoughts. Obviously, this is a really key year because it's the 10-year anniversary. So it's definitely a well-established conference now. If somebody's sitting on the fence and they're wondering, should I go? What would you say to them?
Well, I would say visit the Facebook page and ask questions, or find other people in your community. Who invited you to HypnoThought? Who told you? How did you learn about it? Cull that population, and because of course I want them to come. I'm the organizer. I'm co-owner of it. So yeah, 100%. I want people to come, but even just I would ask around and see what people got out of it. Why shouldn't you go?
That's it. I mean, I would just
What's holding you back from going? And I think the other night we were having a conversation, and I was saying it's so interesting to me how many presenters do, and I posted this too, but they take pre and post classes. They take classes outside of HypnoThoughts with people that they've met at HypnoThoughts, and I really noticed that this year, that how many presenters are really not only just supporting each other, but hey, that person has something really interesting that I'd like to incorporate into my practice, or my business, whatever. And I just really, I find that really interesting, that everybody does want to learn, and it is kind of the party, the fun, but we do have very, very quality instructors. And that's kind of what we talk to our volunteers about too, is we sometimes volunteers will come in and say, well, they'll send me a list. They've gone through the whole schedule. They know the schedule better than I do because they looked at everything. And then they'll say, okay, well, I can't help here, and here. And so we're like, no, in the original email, you get a 4 or 5 hour shift, morning or afternoon, and that's where you go. And you can get the recordings or whatever. And we try to work with people, obviously, but when you've got 37 volunteers, It's really hard to put everybody where they want to be. And so often they have come back to me and said, you know what, I didn't want to know about, I wasn't interested in this presenter, but I learned so much about that. And it's just kind of fun to see people say, oh, I was where I was supposed to be, to learn that trick, or that technique, or that how, or maybe how not to do it,
It's very true. I know that firsthand, because I won't say who it was, but I had a volunteer that was in one of my classes, and they came up to me. It was the year after they'd been the volunteer for me, and they said it was such an eye-opening experience. I probably never would have come to your class, and it was such an eye-opening experience, and they've since trained with me. So that just goes to show, isn't it? Pardon? Isn't it? Isn't that fun? Yeah.
It's just fun that. So I think going back to the perfect attendee, it is somebody who's willing to. Maybe I wandered into a class that the title was different than what I thought it was, or the description or whatever, and then they're like, oh, but I learned so much from that, so just having that openness to.
Oh, absolutely. And of course you get to try people on for size. The way I sometimes describe hypnothoughts, it's a bit like being at a really amazing restaurant where they've got a taster menu, and you can taste little bits of people, or little bits of people's trainings and how they are. And actually, just because you're just trying things out and tasting things, you find the ones that really kind of resonate with you. And you can do that, and all day, for 3 whole days, you can do that. And within that, I don't think I've ever been to a presentation where I haven't got something. There hasn't been at least one golden nugget that I've been able to kind of take away and use and utilize in my practice at some point. It's probably the best value conference for that than anywhere. And of course, because it is so international and it is so big, and you can get all the recordings afterwards, which is amazing. So you never really miss anything, because you can access all of that later. It's just an amazing experience, isn't it? And of course, in Las Vegas, this amazing playground.
Well, and also it's funny too, because sometimes people will come up to me right as we're shutting the doors for an hour, and they'll say, okay, I'm new, this is my first year, who should I go see this hour? And I'm like, well, there's 13, 14 rooms. What are you interested in? I need a little more information. They'll say, oh, who's good? And I'll say, well, no, what are you interested in? It's not,
yeah, absolutely.
It's all about what do you want to learn? What are you interested in? And can I give a little shout out to my volunteer coordinator, Mariana?
Of course.
She has been with us, I think it was just a year or two after I came along. And I think she had already been coming, but she has stepped up and helped me so much. And she even messaged me the other day and said, okay, I'm home from her travels, and because she does shows and all of that. And she said, I'm home, send me the volunteer list, and I'm going to work on that now. And she's just always so supportive and so helpful. And I don't know what I'd do without her taking over some of that.
So, the cogs that make the hypnothoughts engine turn, really, I mean, they do rely on so much collaboration. You've got you and Scott as co-owners, but you've got people like Mariana and all the volunteers and, the Orleans and
Richard
all of that
Rumpel,
kind of stuff.
Right.
It's a hypnotic family through and through, really, isn't it?
It is. And even yesterday I got an email and someone said, hey, I've had people reach out to me, because he lives in Vegas, and he said, I've had people reach out to me and ask if they can mail packages to me. I'd like to do a video with you, kind of for some of the presenters who are mailing books and things. And I was like, you are awesome. That does take one thing off my plate to worry about how are they gonna get, and we've mailed swag bag stuff to people, and that's just a lot of stuff. I think one year I dropped my bags off in my room, and we went to go get all of the swag bag stuff that had been in I think it was Richard Nongard's. I can't remember whose house it was at the time. And I literally was met at the hotel with like 6 of the valet guys with their things. And it was like, I was a movie star coming with all these boxes of things. It was funny. And of course, then we had a little party in my suite to stuff them all, but.
Fantastic.
This year we're not having that. We're doing the calendars.
We're doing the calendars. I know I am doing the photo for my calendar later on today, so that would be kind of interesting. Although I will be bringing a few bits and pieces with me. We've got to have a few little swaggy kind of tidbits here and there. But
it's funny when you say, oh, you don't really hear much feedback about something, and then you're like, oh, well, that doesn't seem like it was very important to people, and then people are like, oh no, I need to give you this for the swag bag. I'm like, what bag?
So for anybody watching this who wants to go to the greatest, biggest, best, established, most fun, add in lots of other kind of words in there as well, hypnosis convention on Earth, what are the dates? What's the website?
Oh gosh, now 29th, 30th, and 31st of July. But you can come to a pre-conference starting July 23rd. No, that's not right.
It's 4 days before and 4 days after, isn't it? Yeah. So that weekend.
I think it's the 25th, not the 23rd. That's when you should arrive and check into the hotel. And then the class would start on the 25th. We've got great pre-conference classes. And then the conference is the weekend, the Friday, 29th, 30th, and 31st. And then starting the 1st, it's our post-conference classes until the 4th of August.
Yes.
So it's a long, fun time.
It is. I'm there for all of it because I'm teaching post-conference. So I'm there before. I will be doing a pre-con because I always try and go and learn something more, not just those 3 days. Of course, I'm doing your keynote, which is very exciting. So
super exciting. That's why I'm trying not to say anything about how I know you and what my thoughts of you were at first, because you might say it during your keynote. I do use you as an example, a positive example for people.
Well, this is it, isn't it? No, I am somebody that came without knowing anybody, and now, as I've already said, a lot of my best friends are purely my best friends because I met them at Hypnothoughts, and some of the stuff that I've learned and where my business has gone and all that kind of stuff. So people, if they're thinking about that, if they want to come, if they go to htlive.net, they can access all of the information about the pre and post conventions. There's the kind of the schedule, although that can change a little bit for the main convention. You've got this amazing catalog that's there, which talks about all the different presentations that are happening over those 3 days. We've got the 80s party, we've got the bowling. There's a whole host. There's probably other stuff going on.
There's other things that are being decided this week.
Yeah.
And also, if anybody has questions, my email is info@htlive.net. So if you have any questions, I'm always happy to answer any of those questions.
And, one of the things that you always see when it's time to leave Hypnothoughts, you see people looking pretty tired because it's been pretty intense. You see lots of smiles and you see a few tears, but they're simply tears because it's over. And, and it's kind of sad when we have to leave, but we always know we've got the year after to come back. But it's just such an amazing energy, isn't it, for those 3 days and the 4 days either side of them. You know, it's just
really
such a hypnotic place to be.
Well, and it's when the organizer, I look forward to it every year, you know, and sometimes by the time I have several friends who are also event organizers, and they're just like, oh yeah, this is this event, you know, and it's like, oh, that's a bummer, you know. You need to be excited about it, and I think I feel that too. You know, when all of a sudden I see people, I talk to you throughout the year, and I talk to other, but there are people who I really, really like that I only talk to at Hypnothoughts and don't talk to outside of it, you know, and you're like, oh my gosh, you're here. It's fun.
Right. Well, I'll pop the links below in the comments below, so everybody's got the links that they need, so they can access all of that information. You truly are not only one of the most kind of powerful and influential women in hypnosis, but also one of the loveliest. And you know, a lot of the reason why Hypno Thoughts is because of you. And you know, it's good to be able to speak so people can see that you're not just a wonderful lady that sits behind the desk and says hello to them when they arrive. There is so much more to all the things that you do, which is a year-long job and beyond. And you know, thank you for making Hypno Thoughts so absolutely amazing. It is just a wonderful place to be.
It's great to be a part of it.
Trancing in the sheets. It's time for things to change.